photos look chaotic, but nothing is out of place. No posing, no staging, just a street moment perfectly timed. But how does he do it? Alex Webb's images don't follow rules, rather they break them. And still they work. Every layer tells a story, every gesture feels alive, but behind this seeming randomness, there's a way of seeing the world most of us miss. In this video, we'll be exploring what Alex Webb can teach us about seeing and why this book, Memory City, might be the key to understand how he captures and stages chaos with such emotional clarity. It's all in vision, and today I'm interested in us learning to see how Alex Webb sees so that we can also take notes and lessons to our own photography. Also, this video is brought to you by PicDrop. They're today's partner. And before we talk about them, which is going to be later in this video, I just wanted to let you know that if you do share your photos with me via PicDrop, which is free, I'll be sharing them with everybody in my next video with PicDrop in July. I'll be featuring your gallery and I'll be leaving you links down below. So if you want to check that out, links will be in the description. But for now, let's grab a drink, make ourselves comfortable, and let's go straight to another video and talk about the amazing world of Alex Webb. But before we dive into how he sees, here's a brief note on Webb's work. Alex Webb is a very influential street photographer that joined Magnum in 1976, and by the 1980s he was redefining what street photography could be. At a time when most of his peers stayed rooted in previous styles made famous by William Eggleston, Joel Meyerowitz, and so forth, Webb turned to color, not just for aesthetic reasons, but because, as he put it, quote, "I only really began to see in color when I started photographing in the Caribbean and Latin America." And throughout his career, he's photographed across the world, Haiti, Mexico, Istanbul, Cuba, chasing light and life in places that are constantly going between joy and hardship. His images are quite complex, they're densely layered and alive with tension. His book, The Suffering of Light, is often considered a pillar in his career. Alongside his wife, the poet and photographer Rebecca Norris Webb, he's also created other books like Memory City, where the chaos of the street gives way to quiet contemplation over memory and loss. But what makes Webb's work so interesting isn't where he shoots per se, or how many books he's made, but rather how he sees what others miss. For most of us photographers, when first learning about photography, we're taught or come across this basic idea of organizing your frame, clean compositions, following lines, geometry, perspective, using negative space, one subject or one story. But what Alex Webb does is exactly the opposite. He steps into the chaos, street corners pulsing with life, overlapping gestures, fractured light, and it works. But why does it work? The answer is in how Webb sees. He doesn't just photograph what's in front of him, he photographs the relationships that unfold in front of him, between light and shadow, between a figure in the background and a gesture in the foreground, between color and shadow, between silence and movement. Where most photographers isolate, he integrates all the complexities of the scene. As he said, quote, "I'm always looking to create a frame where everything somehow connects. Not in a literal or structured way, but in a way that feels emotional or atmospherical." So how does one see or learn to see like Alex Webb? There's 5 things I think compose or are part of how he sees the world, and I wanted to talk to you about them. Layering, patience, color, light, and intuition. Let me start with layering. Obviously, Webb's frames aren't flat. They're spatial, theatrical, almost architectural at times. He builds them with depth, placing elements at different planes within the frame. The foreground might contain a blurred arm reaching in the midground, a burst of movement, and the background, a silent observer watching from the shadows. However, there is a duality in all these layers. They're physical, but also emotional. They create tension between moments, between gestures, between what's seen and what's half seen. As Webb once put it in an interview, Quote, I strive for a certain ambiguity in my images, a tension between different planes of meaning. And to create that kind of complexity, you can't rush. You have to be patient. The photographer doesn't chase moments in his work, he lets them unfold. He'll find a patch of light or a corner buzzing with potential, and he'll stay there. Serendipity, he says, is at the heart of the way I work. I wait for the world to fall into place. And so his idea of the decisive moment isn't about speed, it's about patience. He knows that in a crowded, unpredictable street, the world will eventually compose itself. You just have to be ready when it does. Following what I said before, the next two elements to touch on are color and light. In his images, Webb uses color as a language. The reds are hot, the yellows are harsh, the shadows are deep, almost like a chiaroscuro scene. And his work in the Caribbean and Latin America, where he first began shooting color with a serious intention, he found a visual environment that was too rich, too vivid, to flatten into black and white. Color, he said, wasn't just a decoration, it was part of the meaning. And therefore, when I look at Alex Webb's images, it's more about how light structures a scene, how it brings drama, how it, creates almost like cuts in the scene, how it interplays of colors and lights and tones. And so it's very interesting that I think light is very different, or his perception of light is quite different than what I would assume to be your most immediate perception of light in a scene. I think that's probably a better word. Light in Alex Webb's work almost acts like spotlights on a stage, shaping the action or the chaos. And behind all of this, behind the layers, the patience, the color and light, there's one more element, and that is, of course, intuition. In this case, I want to speak of intuition over control. The photographer works with what the street gives him, not what he wishes it would offer. He says that in this context, perception can be a burden, that it blinds you to what's really there. His genius is not therefore in controlling the scene, but in surrendering to it, letting the camera become a bridge to capture what's unfolding. And so far, we've seen that Webb's most iconic work is about relationships between motion, tension, color, and light. Now, we've seen throughout this video how Alex Webb has been making such amazing images and how he's been able to share them with the world throughout his career. And whilst he probably hasn't heard of PicDrop, I wanted you to be the exception to the rule, and I want to talk to you about PicDrop and how it can be a great tool to help you share your work more proficiently and professionally with your peers, with your clients, and other collaborators that you might have. PicDrop is a platform that makes it easy to share your photography securely and beautifully. Whether you're shooting street scenes, portraits, or abstract moments, PicDrop streamlines how you present your work to clients or collaborators. And to create a gallery, it's really easy. Step 1, you create and name your gallery. Step 2, you upload your images. Step 3, you customize it your own way. You can select a banner, you can change the sequence of images. And step 4 is to enter the contact you want to share it with. And if you create a free PicDrop account and share your photography with me through their platform, you'll be entered for a chance to be featured in my next video with PicDrop coming this July. That's right, your work could be highlighted here in a future episode, and I'll also be dropping you links below as well. Thank you so much to PicDrop for kindly sponsoring this segment in the video. And now let's go back to Alex Webb, Memory City, and how we see in photography, or how can we take lessons from him and the way he sees in photography. And that's why I selected something completely different for this video with this book, Memory City. And I apologize, the book is a bit in a rough shape. I picked it up a while back from the secondary market. So, it's used, but it's still very good for the points I'm trying to make. And so this book is very, very different from everything that we've been discussing so far. Although some images, I would argue that, of course, we can see Alex Webb's style and there's still some tension, some color, some light, etc. There is obviously something completely different here in terms of pace, in terms of tone. It becomes more of a documentary piece rather than a street photography off the cuff kind of style. And so it's very interesting because in here, obviously, this book is made in collaboration with his wife, Rebecca, and the book features some of his photographs and some of her photographs. But it's interesting that still in this very different, approach, we can still find glimpses of how he sees the world. As photographers, we can't perpetuate the same style. Our style is constantly evolving. We're constantly finding different things. We're constantly introducing different elements. We're aging. We're changing with life and our experience in it. So I wanted to bring forward a book that is, a book that is made much later in his career, and so how it still reflects Alex Webb's style and also another way of seeing. Memory City is a project about stillness and absence. Shot in Rochester, New York, once the thriving home of Kodak, Memory City is a portrait of a place where the past feels heavier than the present. Webb arrived just as Kodak was shutting down its film production. In this book, the palette is quieter and the rhythm is much slower than what we are used to from Alex Webb. But the way Webb sees, that does not necessarily change. He still searches for layers, but now they're abstract. There's layers of time, loss, and transition. These being ideas I take from images of faded murals, a dusty window, a figure disappearing down an empty sidewalk. His camera almost lingers softly, patiently, not to catch a decisive moment, but to capture the feeling of something slipping away. And Webb wrote on this project, quote, "Photography is, after all, uniquely suited to deal with memory. It stops time, it preserves fragments, it's always in some sense about what's gone." And for this book, his partner Rebecca Norris Webb contributed with her own images and text throughout. And I believe that where Alex's photographs reflect a restless searching, her photographs bring a more lyrical, quiet sense of interiority. And together they form a kind of visual duo, both rooted in the same idea, to bear witness to a disappearing act, even if there's nothing left to see. For us photographers, this is a great reminder that we often talk about learning to see in terms of gear or technique. But what the photographer teaches, Webb in this case, is something more essential and pertinent. And that is that to see is to pay attention, not just to light or form or timing, but to what a place feels like. Even in silence, even in decay, even when nothing is happening, there is still something lingering there. The nature of a story, a trace, a mood, and the job of the photographer is to be present enough to find it. And I guess that's how I'll conclude today's video. But before you go, I think if you're interested in street photography, there's a whole playlist that I've dedicated to it, so you can find more videos there that might be of your interest. But also specifically talking about Memory City, loss, and the idea of memory and what's not there, what was left behind. I think a photographer I can think of that is a really great link is William Christenbury, specifically again to this idea of Memory City. I think you guys might enjoy that one. I've made a video about him a really long time ago. I'll link it somewhere around here, which then connects with William Eggleston, which connects to Stephen Shore, which connects to Joel Sternfeld. So it's a whole kind of vortex of American landscape, everyday street photography that you might enjoy. And so if you do, I'll leave the links down in the description. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. It means the world to me that I'm able to do videos like this. I absolutely love learning new stuff. I love learning about new people, new lessons that I can take from photographers, going through books, etc. So it's never enough if you leave your input down below. I'll take it in consideration, and hopefully you'll see your favorite photographer or someone that you really admire in the next videos. The next videos on the channel will be pretty interesting. They'll be about very different stuff. I will also come back with some videos, hopefully on filmmakers. I've noticed that some of you have asked for videos like that, just like I did on Akira Kurosawa and Ingmar Bergman in the past, so Wong Kar-wai as well. So I'll be making videos like that, and with a twist. I think that'd be an interesting thing that I'll be bringing to the channel. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. So take care, stay safe, keep shooting, keep creating, keep learning photography, and I'm out. Peace.